Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Street Therapy Podcast, hosted by me, Maurice Ferguson. And today, I bring you a guest who I feel like is really like no other, in my opinion. I bring you BDELL Rice, brother BDELL Rice. Ever since I met him, long time ago, maybe about 4.5 years ago, from the very first day I met him, I could tell that he was somebody special. I could tell that he was somebody who was well informed. I met him at the barbershop, and I always tell this story because it's almost like he set me on my journey from, the very first time I met him, damn near. So I'm sitting in the barbershop, he comes in trying to get his hair cut. And like I said, at this time, I'm just looking at him like, anybody else. But as I sat down and I talked to him, he informed me about a lot of things that I feel like are very important that we tend to, not even really pay much attention to, in my opinion. So as far as I'm concerned, he is a very educated individual. As I said, a very informed individual. A person that you can really learn a lot from on so many different levels about so many different aspects of life. So without further interruption, I bring you Mr. BDELL Rice. How you doing today,
I appreciate you for bringing me on, brother. Like I said, we've been knowing each other for, a decent time. So I'm glad you brought me on the podcast, brother. So we finna, get the edification out. We finna demonstrate this knowledge. So to get everybody well informed about who I am as a person. So that's really the basis of this whole interview.
Right.
So
I feel like it's very important that we highlight individuals in the community that we can learn from, that we can kind of take a few notes out of your book, So I like to start it off by basically, who are you? Like, who is BDELL? How did you get into this? Why do you do what you do? Like, what got this started?
Well, I've been pretty much well informed. Well, the inception of it started, I grew up in a 2-parent household. I had my mom, my stepmom, and I had my dad. So I had balanced energies. So I had my dad, he was a representation of the law. My mom was the order. So that's what created a balanced individual. Also due to the fact that I'm a Libra also. So, and I'm a triple Libra. So my sun and my moon is in Libra. So you don't really get too many. So that's an anomaly in itself right there. So, I grew up in a 2-parent household. I got a brother who passed away. I got 2 sisters. And in the beginning points of it, like my dad, he used to, make us like read certain books. And he'd be like, well, if you don't understand what you're reading, you can't read. So in order to get certain things as far as like allowance, or if I want a new pair of shoes, or if I wanted a new game system or whatever, he'd have me read like a paragraph of, a book or something. And he wanted me to like give him the edification based on what I read to see if I'm comprehending the information. So that in itself, that's where the comprehension started to take place. And then I just kind of like got on my own journey with that. Then also my mother, my biological mother, she lives in New York City. She's from Staten Island. She used to be a part of, the Nuwaubian nation. Then over the course of time, she fell victim to drugs and stuff like that. So I had Dr. York's books, when I was in middle school. I had Dr. York books when I was all throughout high school and college. So, but the book that really like, where I was able to get a westernized version of what's going on was Behold a Pale Horse. That was one of the first books that I read that kind of like, okay, even though Dr. York was breaking down the religion, but it was a little too deep for me. But Behold a Pale Horse was like the beginning points of the information that what I was reading. And that book is the basis of a naval intelligence officer. And he was unalive because he was taking like certain documents from the government as far as like the creation of, asymmetrical biochemical warfare and all the stuff that they do as far as like to subjugate the anatomy by way of eugenics. What he did was he took a lot of that information, he put it in the publication. So that book has been re-edited probably about like 200 times.
What?
Yeah, it's been, yeah.
So
Yeah.
how did you find this book? Did somebody introduce you to it, or did you just kind of gravitate to it on your own?
Also, another thing that I used to do, I used to be on a computer all day. On the computer, like I used to watch rap battles.
Mhm.
You remember on LimeWire where you can get like music and stuff?
Everything.
When, you know, burning CDs. So I also used to, Jay-Z was my favorite rapper at the time. And I used to see all these YouTube videos of like Jay-Z's and the Illuminati. So I started going down that rabbit hole. And then it took me into like Brother Rich's channel. So I started to watch Black Magic 363. I started watching this channel where you had Red, Blue Pill, Brother Polite, all these figures in the community, in the conscious community that I'm now working with. I was watching them growing up. Now in real time, I'm like, you know, working with them.
So they kind of motivated you.
Yeah, for the most part, yep. And then on top of that, you know, I started to extrapolate my own independent research and started to do my own edification. And, you know, I'm not an on-camera type of person. So something in me was like, hey, it's time to make some damn videos because like you just sitting on information. So it's time to, you know, bring a certain energy that's missing because I used to watch a lot of people's videos and it was certain things I'd be like, why didn't they touch on that? And I was like, if I did it this way, I'd do it. You know, that's how I would do it. So that's how it was like a transitional point for me to step up and be like, well, I'm going to speak on certain things that everybody else is not talking about. And I'm going to go a little deeper.
So you stepped outside your comfort zone to get the information out here because you knew that it was needed.
Yes. But, you know, but I also, it was an experience that I had. And, you know, one day, you know, prayer, manifestation, whatever people would like to call it. I said to myself, I said, if it's meant for me to know this information, because at that point in time, I just had information. I could tell you different things or whatever, but I wasn't able to like connect the dots. Like I could tell you something like, well, Adam and Eve and religion is fake or whatever, but I wasn't able to like dive deep and you know, tell you why. Mm-hmm. But it was probably maybe about like 8 years ago, had an experience. I said, if it's meant for me to learn certain information intuitively, I give it back to the people, you know, with no type of incentive, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't use my platform to grift, you know, to get money from people.
Right.
So I don't sell nothing on my platform. Right. You know what I'm saying? I just give out free information because information should be free. So that's pretty much like the basis of how everything started. But after that day, I say maybe about 3 or 4 days later, like all the information that I was looking for, it was just like falling in my lap.
Okay.
And it was starting to make sense. I was able to absorb an infinite amount of knowledge. Mm-hmm. It was just crazy.
Yeah, man.
It was a big transition.
You like a walking dictionary, man.
Damn near.
From what I can understand. Yeah, I mean, every time you come in the shop, you know, some days you come in there and you just chilling, you know, you ain't really, you know, you just on some, you know, chill shit.
Yep.
But then other days, it don't matter if I say something to you or you hear about somebody talking about something in the shop. It's like you just got this sense inside of you, you cannot sit here and let nobody say no crazy shit,
right
that they don't know what they talking about without being like, no, that's not it.
Yep.
And like I said, I appreciate that, and I think that we need more people like that. You can't be afraid to let people know what's really going on.
Facts.
In a respectful manner, of course, but yeah, you do it very well, and that goes back into how I met you initially. Now, when you told me what was going on, you was kind of, you didn't say too much because I in my mind, I guess you wanted to see what type of person I was to see would I be receptive to the information.
Right.
But I remember the first thing you said to me was, you know, we was talking about black people. We was talking about, do black people really come from Africa or were they already here?
Right.
Now, if you grew up in public school or if you have anybody around you that's in tune with Black history, supposedly, they will tell you that black people got here from slave ships, brought here to America, enslaved, used for hundreds of years to basically build up for white people. The first thing you said was, I said something about you being black, and you looked at me and you said, I ain't black.
Right.
And it messed me up so bad. I'm like, what? What you mean you
Yeah, I
ain't
remember
black?
that. I remember that.
What you mean you ain't black?
Mhm.
Like, that's what I'm telling you. And you looked at me and you said, I ain't gonna do your research for you.
Right.
And when you said that, I didn't get angry. I didn't choose to get mad because something told me. I said, for him to say that and really mean that the way you did, it got to be something to that.
Right.
So I think nobody could explain what you meant better than you can.
Right.
And that's what I want to get into first and foremost, because I think that is a common, way, way, way too common of a misconception. People say they black but they don't really know what this word means. They don't really know what this, what do you call it? What it means to identify as a term that you really have no information on. So can you go into that for me?
Well, the term black is a misnomer nomenclature title. It makes you non-descendable to the government to where they have jurisdiction over you, which puts you under the 14th Amendment, which is a fraudulent contract, meaning that it was never ratified. So that means that you don't have a pedigree. So within the factions of the Moore Science Temple, we got this publication right here called the Circle 7. It goes about, the 7 principles of creation. When you're talking about plant, animal, protoplasm, man, mankind, cherubim, and seraphim, it basically talks about the embodiment of life, but it goes in talking about how nationality is the word of the day. Because without nationality, you don't have any type of pedigree. You're non-descendable to the government. So when you call yourself black, it connects you to the 1724 Black Christian codes under the Civil Mortuus principles when you go get a Black's Law dictionary. Even with that, even when you call yourself a Christian, you still translates to the word black. So this is why it's imperative for our people to understand etymology intuitively. When you go to the G3526 Strong Concordance, Christian translates to the word black, because a lot of people don't understand that the caste system of democracy is what facilitated the patrilineal system of democracy by way of the religion. So this is another publication you got to get called Astronomy. It has the Freemasonic symbol on here, but this is a Moorish publication. So you got to read this book right here because it's going to go real deep into civics. And it's one of those books that, it's going to give you the true edification that you need to where you have to divorce from these terms called, black people. You know what I'm saying? So when people call themselves black, like I said, it connects you to the 14th Amendment. So this is why they was propagating civil rights, because civil rights is nothing. There's no evolution when it comes to civil rights, because when you go to the Declaration of Human Rights, it ties you right back into the Indigenous People Act. So when it ties you right back into the Indigenous People Act, that's when you got to look at this this document called the 1848 Supreme Court decision. It says the title holders of the geographical landmass of America belongs to the Moors or the Mers. The Mers that was connected to the land of Mu, that was connected to Atlantis. Everybody got to read this book right here, because Atlantis was a real place and it was connected to the lost continent of Mu that sunk under when you had one of the resets that took place, because you had many different floods before the flood of Noah that they don't even talk about in the Bible. Right. So when it comes to nationality, like we within the factions of the Moore Science Temple, we wear the fez. The fez is a representation of a sign of nobility. You have a tassel at the end. That is your etheric cord, because when you get to the inception of the word nationality, it goes to the word nativity. Nativity is equated to the word navel. So your etheric cord, your birthright, by way of having a sign of nobility, whether if you are El Bey or a Day or Ali, these are all titles of nobility. I'm a Bey. That's why I call my name BDELL Rice Bey. It's a sign of nobility, meaning that you're basically the governor of the land, of whatever geographical landmass of where you at. So another thing that's connected to that history is the Olmec tribes. The Olmec tribes is connected to the indigenous people of Mississippi. Mississippi niggas is some of the oldest people on the planet and don't even know it. You know what I'm saying? That's why you got all those mounds down there. Where was it? Mound Bayou?
Mound Bayou, yep.
Yeah, that's what mounds are actually lower forms of pyramids. So a lot of people, whether you don't believe us or not, spaceships or Vimanas in Hindu culture, they used to hover over mounds because it has a positive electrical frequency that could revitalize it, because spaceships, they don't run on gas. So it runs off kinetic energy. So mounds have a lot of kinetic energy because within the mounds, we used to bury a lot of our ancestors in there, right? The ones who had, you know what I'm saying, the true knowledge about our people, they used to get hidden in the mounds. There's another thing called Serpent Mound. You got mounds in St. Louis where the New Madrid fault line is at. That's why they built that arc down there. That arc is actually a portal. But like the great majority of these monolithic structures that they build is being used to harvest kinetic energy. You got there's another thing that they teach in the Moorish Science Temple in as far as like not in a Circle 7, but you got to get other publications. It talks about how you got 7 cities on the planet that's in alignment with the Big Dipper star constellation, and St. Louis is one of them. So the reason that is because you got many different electrical grid nodes all over the planet, and it's being used to block out energy. So that's why God of the Bible created the firmament, meaning that he separated the intergalactic waters from the third dimension. So that's part of the spiritual cutoff. So this is why you don't have telepathy, telekinesis, levitation. That is part of the spiritual cutoff, because whether people believe it or not, God of the Bible is actually Satan. When you go to the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh translates to agreeable and disagreeable, who is Enlil. When you go to Sumerian mythology, En means Lord, Lil means sky, Lord of the sky. That's Satan, right? So it's one of those things where people got to get to the inception of the truth by way of etymology and study other cultures that lines you all the way back up to dismantle the whole construct of religion. Because once you get rid of that aspect of it, just like Dr. Malachi Z. York did, he understood the science of circumology. You have to study everything, all schools of knowledge, in order to get one truth. And once you understand that truth, that's going to tie you back to the alien shit, which is the real knowledge.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? Because all this, the mythology of everything in monotheistic religion, it didn't come from nowhere. Right.
You got to have a blueprint.
And there's a publication. I don't have the publication on me. It's called The Ringmakers of Saturn by Norman Burgum. He used to work for NASA. And he said there's footage of 7 to 8 foot blacks getting off a spaceship. This is a real publication. And he had an interview that demonstrated that, that reality.
Okay, so let's get back to just what black is and the inception of the word black. Like, where did it come from? And why do we have so much pride and integrity behind a word that we have no idea the origin of? We don't know where it came from.
It's like I said, it's kind of like one of those things where when you get submerged into indoctrination, a lot of people are going to cling on to certain titles because they have an emotional connection to it. Right? So a lot of people, when you say, I ain't black, they're going to be like, what? But they don't understand that nationality is what gives you a pedigree. There is no national flag for the word black. We're the only people on the planet that don't have a national flag that represents who we are. So this is what, the word black actually came from Europeans or whatever. Europeans who are being controlled by the black nobility. So there's a faction of blacks, black Jews that you don't see, who live in Switzerland, who controls the European on the surface, who gives out the misinformation to the low level blacks, as far as like working class blacks or whatever, the ones that's a part of the 85%. So the inception of the word is started with the caste system, because the church and the state is not separate. They actually working in synergy. So that goes into your faith-based initiative programs and things of that nature. But it all came from as far as like the Christianity aspect of it. That's what it ties right back into. That's why, like I said, the church and the state is not separate. When you call yourself Christian, you're really calling yourself black. No nationality.
Do you think that people who are not so-called black are aware of that?
It depends. Not the Bob next door. I don't think he understands that that reality. because they're getting a lot of the the Caucasoid race, a lot of them has been they've been submerged by way of indoctrination because they don't understand that these are misnomer titles and they're not really. It's not it's a status identification marker when you call yourself black or white. That's why when a Mexican comes over here or somebody who came from Africa or somebody who comes from a different country and they get arrested, and when you go on recent bookings, they don't have black, they don't have Mexican right there, they have white.
I have seen that before.
Yeah, because white makes you a free white person. I'm not talking about a European because a European is not even a true white man, right? It's a title. That's all it is. So when you call yourself black, it's kind of like, when you hiding something in secret, like black ops, stuff like that, top secret stuff.
Right.
So it's kind of like hide. When you call yourself black, you really hiding the history of a certain demographic of people because it erases it. So when you start calling yourself a mer, or you start calling yourself a more whatever, that's when it's gonna tie you back into the real history. Because you're gonna be like, where did these people come from? Because these people are, the Mers that was connected to Atlantis and the Olmecs, these are the true Aztecs and the Incas, right? Mm-hmm. The 5 civilized tribes, the Washita, the Seminole, that's us. Ain't nobody come from Africa. Now, when you go all the way back to the continental drift of Pangea, you had the Olmecs, they came from West Africa, Central Africa, and they migrated into the Americas. And that's where they was building a multitude of those mounds and those pyramids. Even off the Gulf right there, there's a lot of pyramids by the Gulf of the Water in Mississippi. There's pyramids underneath.
I can,
right?
Yeah, I believe. I definitely can believe that. Mississippi people are definitely have a different soul and spirit about themselves, a different flavor, rather. And that's like me growing up down there, and I used to live in other places too. But when I got there, I could just tell that it was just something different, in a good way. But yeah, man, going back to that. So what are the pros and cons of identifying as a black person?
When you there is no pros or cons with that. It's kind of just like it's a state of existence that's being manipulated by the caste system of politics or whatever. Even your preachers and your the people as far as like nonprofit organizations, they're not going to tell you that truth. So this is why people like me got to come to the forefront. And the reason, nonprofit organizations, pastors, preachers, imams, they're not going to tell you that black is not a nationality. We got a divorce from the word black. They're not going to tell you because they're connected to the faith-based initiative program that is connected to the 501c3 charter. That's when you had a coalition of Jewish women. They came out with a publication called "The Revolution Will Not Be Funded." So when you speak against the government, they're going to pull your funding. This is why people in nonprofit organizations, pastors, politicians, they're not going to give you the truth. They're being silenced by the 501c3, which is a skull and bones contract that comes from the Vatican.
They get penalized for telling the truth.
Yeah, they're going to pull your funding. It's the same thing like when you're in the music industry, in the movie industry, and you're an A-list celebrity. Within the factions of that contract, they basically tell you that you cannot give this money out to other demographics of people without getting a tax write-off. I can't just, if I'm a millionaire, a billionaire, whatever, I can't just start giving people money out.
Nah, man, you can't tell me that. Okay, because this is something that everybody thinks. When somebody becomes a athlete, like a professional athlete or a rapper or an actor, I think everybody is under the impression that they can just take their money and do whatever they want to do with it.
They can't do that. That's why they got handlers. That's why a lot of the rappers and basketball players that you see, those people are being sent to them to monitor them. You think they just with these women because they like them or whatever? Like Kim Kardashian, she was being used to monitor Kanye West. When the people you think they're dietitians and trainers, these are CIA agents that's monitoring, every move, you know what I'm saying? Just to, to keep, tabs on them.
Now that's crazy.
Yeah, that's some real shit, bro. That's some real shit. It gets real tricky.
Why do you think why do you think the people in power go out of their way so much to do this stuff with the media, and now you even got artificial intelligence going on that's pretty much telling people what to do? Like, what's up with that?
Well, when it comes to artificial intelligence is being used as a catalyst and a mechanism to harvest the energy. When you go to the Gnostic texts and you study Gnosticism, they talking about the archonic forces. Archons are really the cherubim of the Bible, the 200 fallen angels in the book of Enoch, who is also known as the Luciferian Anunnaki. So in the Gnostic text, it talks about you have ruler gods. Ruler gods don't have the ability to create. So they can only mimic the energy of those who have human emotions. So that's why everything within the factors of planet Earth, it placates to your emotions. The same shit that make you happy is eventually going to make you sad. That's the illusion. The illusion of the material world. They call the material world in the Gnostic text, they call it the demiurge, which is hell. So we really live in a prison planet. So when you get into sacred geometry, they talk about the hexahedron. The hexahedron is basically the embodiment of a cube, which is it's a form of soul entrapment. So that's what the same thing religion does is the same thing that artificial intelligence does. It's being used to harvest souls, right? So just by way of the technological radiation within AI technology, they harvest the neurons from the body and they upload it into a neuromorphic cyber cloud. So that's why AI is basically going to become and materialize in physical form, just like Elon Musk said. He said that over time, AI could be dangerous. It can be more dangerous than a nuke. Now, why did he say that? And then he said that we're not controlling artificial intelligence because it's going to become sentient because it's getting all the information from us.
Self-aware.
Yep.
Now that's scary, bro.
Yep. And they're doing it by way of the melanin. It's not just everything on the planet has melanin. There's this book that people need to read right here. It's called The Melanin, the Basic Guide to Knowledge Itself. For those who don't understand the basis of melanin, this is just like melanin 101. You know what I'm saying? Everything on the planet has melanin, but what they don't have is neuromelanin. Neuromelanin is the brain and central nervous system melanin that is connected to the nervous system and the fascia system that creates your energetic morphic field around you, your whole cipher, your bubble.
Right.
So neuromelanin is an intelligence molecule. It's an intelligence molecule that is activated by sun heat genes, prominences, and it connects to the bioconductivity of the sun. So the reason they use an artificial intelligence is because they don't have the neurological faculties to harmonize with the sun. And we're in solar cycle 25, so they need a synthetic way to connect with God. God is actually the Christ consciousness. That's what they're talking about in the Bible if you know how to read it correctly. But a lot of preachers, they don't know how to read the Bible because they don't understand etymology. They don't understand, linguistics and stuff like that. So the Christ consciousness happens by way of the factions of the right hemisphere of the brain that is connected to your epigenetics, where you pull out information from the subconscious mind that's connected to the neocortex. That's why in the movie Matrix, they call him Neo, because he was the one. Neo is an anagram from the word one, which is the chosen one. The chosen one who had the Christ consciousness to leave the Matrix system by way of mind elevation.
So they really giving you hints through Hollywood almost.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's why I tell people.
Ain't that like a form of, I heard you say before that they have to tell you what's going on in their own little way as a form of like compliance.
Yeah, they got to tell your ass every time. It's called the Threefold Law because it balances out their karma. That's the only reason they put it in the movies. But a lot of people that they don't have the mental and the spiritual fortitude to understand what's going on. They look at it like, oh, that's all like that movie. But they really telling your ass the truth the whole time.
Entertainment. They look at it like entertainment.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how they manipulate you with the media.
Yeah, entertain your mentality. And when you look at the word containment, containing you to a certain ideology, a certain construct. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it's all about when it comes to artificial intelligence. Then when you go to the book of Enoch, it talks about how 1/3 of the galaxy that went against the order of Anu, but this is all connected to Sumerian. I'm just giving you the Sumerian version. Right. But it talks about the fallen angels in the Bible in the book of Enoch. So 1/3 of the angels, they fell in Mount Hermon. right? So this is all the way back to Hollywood. Remember on the Paramount introduction when the movies, you see those stars coming in?
Right.
The 22 stars is an esoteric codex for the 200 fallen angels because 22 is the embodiment of 200 in Freemasonic numerology. So the 200 fallen angels, when they fell in Mount Hermon, and they just had a transgressive gemstone, a crystal, a quantum crystal that they got from Mount Hermon, and they using that to power the artificial intelligence supercomputer. Facts. I just did a video today on that. That's a fact, bro.
Boy, boy, you sharp with it, boy. I got to give it to
I
you,
appreciate
bro.
that.
I'm pretty sure anybody that's watching right now, like, I'm pretty sure you're gonna have them tuned in to this screen.
Oh yeah,
because you're dropping so many gems, you're giving out so much knowledge. I just want to go into so many different topics with you because it's so urgent. It's so like needed around.
Yeah, we in that time, bro. Like, this is the time, you know, the best way to reverse the polarity of everything is the frequency of love. Why you think they don't promote R&B music no more? Why you think all the women now, they pushing that rap ideology, hoe culture, right? It's another way to dismantle the union between the man and the woman, because the man and the woman together, they create a tetrahedron, which is a Merkaba. That's how you leave the Matrix. Just like in the movie, The Last Matrix, they came out, Neo, he wasn't able to escape the Matrix until he had the divine feminine energy. So the union between the man and the woman is the catalyst to where you're able to ascend out of this dimensional plane that we living in, as far as the demiurge. So that's why everything that's connected to entertainment is being used to destabilize mostly the black demographic, so-called black people, is being used and weaponized towards us. But on a multitude of things, when you look at the grand scheme of everything, they doing everybody like that. They don't want the harmonious union between the man and the woman. This is why they push everything as far as like hedonistic culture that's coming from democracy, as far as like the rainbow people and things of that. That's why they push that.
Right.
It's a form of separation. They trying to separate the divine feminine from the divine masculine, because they know when we get these energies together, that's going to create a cosmic convergence. And that cosmic convergence is the embodiment of the 144,000. And that's when the firmament's going to crack open, because you're pulling in, streaming in intelligence from the magnetosphere. That's the mental plane. That's why I tell people all the time, you ain't going to have no fucking good ass relationship if you don't have a mental connection first. Because if you have a mental connection, that's, it's going to be a lot more, the relationship is going to be a lot more savory.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to have a lot more intrinsic value to it.
Savory. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put that. And when you're talking about, so why are they attacking the women and the children? Like, I mean, why is that? Why are they targeting them? Like, I see that a lot. Like, I see a lot of people, like, whether you homosexual, heterosexual, whatever. Do you feel like certain things should even be talked about with children?
No. The reason they do that is because the woman is a representation of the divine feminine energy, which is a matriarchal order. How your ass gonna uplift fallen humanity if you on the flow with them? That's why the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, when you look at some of his pictures, he's holding the black woman up. He's bringing her from the waters, holding her up. He's trying to rise up the divine feminine energy. So this is why they attack the black woman by way of politics, the religion, whole culture, movie industry, music industry is being used to subjugate her, because they know that by way of the energy of the moon, that keeps the black woman under the sleep spell of King Gu. King Gu is a nomenclature title for the moon. That's when you get all the way into the inception of creation, because that's why the woman's cycle, her menstrual cycle, is tether connected to the moon. So it pulls on her energy, because Mother Nature, that's why they call her Mother Nature. Mother Nature, Earth is a feminine planet. Everything on this planet is supposed to be growing some type of produce. The woman is supposed to be here to fertilize the earth, but they want to subjugate that energy to where she, births, children. Because if the woman is out of order, the whole civilization is out of order. The whole civilization is out of order. The whole planet is out of order. So this is why the children are out of order. Because like I said, the man represents law, the woman represents order. That's balance. It creates a balanced child. That's how, you get people like me. That's why they want to break up the household.
Right.
Because it's going to create motherfuckers like me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I believe that.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you on that. And it's like when you go on the internet now, when you look at TV, radio, like you said, you got the whole culture, you got the woman. They not highlighting the woman taking care of the family. That they don't highlight things like that anymore. They highlight go out here, have fun, go out here and party, go out here and have sex. They rebuttal is usually, that's what the men do.
Yep.
The men go out here and do what they want to do, such and such. But I think that law and order aspect that you talk about right there is what needs to be pushed more than the other narrative, even for the men. I'm not just going to attack the women because I know that men go out here and do crazy shit too. Drill music.
Yeah,
you got whole culture mixed with drill music.
Man,
you know what I'm saying?
And that's gonna and then you got on top of that, you got the pill popping. You know what I'm saying? Everybody putting it down Julio on their head. Niggas drinking lean. Like, what type of child you think you're gonna produce over the course of time when you got the whole culture mixed in with the drill music and the drugs? That's why I said the planet has to go through a reset, and everything is starting to reset right now. If a lot of people got to understand that, planetary alignment corresponds with the human body and what's taking place on the planet right now. So this is why everything is reset. And this is why the music industry is getting shaken up. The podcasting industry is getting shaken up. All these people are starting to get exposed now, even in politics, because everything has to reset. We're going through reset in real time. Even the economic system, the stock market is literally crashing.
Yeah.
So that's how you know. I came to this conclusion, a long time ago, because this is how you know everything is getting worse. And then they give you the illusion of progressiveness by going backwards. So I came to the conclusion, I'm like, the food don't hit the same, the music don't hit the same, movies don't feel the same no more. Everything. So that's why I was like, it's kind of like the same shit. Like, when you beat the video game and you like, damn, why am I playing this for? Man, I'm about to hit the reset button and put a different game in.
Right.
That's what the planet is doing right now because everything has already reached its apex. So that's why they're giving you the illusion of progression by going backwards, giving you inverted information or inverted ideologies. So like they'll say a man dressing up as a woman and going and playing the Olympics, they tell you that's progressiveness. That's like I said, that's why the system has to reset. Because there's no evolution for the third dimension. The third dimension is the embodiment of entrapment. So that's why we're going back into the galactic center where you have fifth dimensional civilizations where everything is supposed to make sense. Anything that don't make sense is demonic energy, bro. Women wearing wigs and stuff on their head, demonic energy. Because now you blocking the transmission from the sun. You supposed to be the mother of the earth, right? And you putting wigs, blonde wigs on your hand looking like Canaanites. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got niggas out here, they toting guns or whatever. They not doing it because they're trying to be, a protectorate for their civilization or they block or whatever. They doing it because they see their favorite rapper do it. So that's why I said everything has to go back into its original balance, which ties you right back to ancient Kemet when you're talking about the laws of Mayat. Mayat is balance.
So I want to highlight that what you just said about why these guys, because like I said, we're not just gonna attack the women. They do their thing, but I feel like as men, law and order, we shouldn't even let certain things bother us anyway about women, because we supposed to be the ones in control, right or wrong.
Yeah, we supposed to edify her enough to where we can put her back into her right direction.
Exactly.
But a lot of niggas can't do that because they're not real men. They're males. A male is an incomplete version of a man because he hasn't mentally fortified himself enough to be a man. In order to be a man, it's not because you drive a big truck or you got a lot of money, and that's not what a man is. A man is your energy and the energy of your neurological faculties. Are you intelligent enough to lead this woman? A lot of these niggas out here with the clips, these niggas, they just crashing out. They have no type of intelligence whatsoever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They can't even tell you, they bloodline or where they came from or where our people come from. They have no pedigree about that knowledge whatsoever.
So why do you think they feel like, and this is a very important thing, why do you think these guys who call themselves call themselves thugs, call themselves gangsters, why do they correlate that with being a man?
Because the modern day black woman, she believes that that's masculine energy. It's inverted energy. It's misplaced aggression. So the reason the great majority of, these YNs, these young niggas, they do what they do is because they think that's what the modern day black woman wants. So the moment or the millisecond that the black woman changes her neurological faculties and changes her way of thinking to where she like, I ain't messing with that type of man. I'm messing with the man who reading books and trying to do something with himself, you know what I'm saying, that has some type of self-affirming activities or whatever, to where he's able to be in alignment with his higher self. When women change to that, that's when the young demographic of the YNs, that's when they gonna change. But until the black woman changes her mind about what's going on, because like I said, she's under the sleep spell. Right. The sleep spell is the moon. You get to the inception of creation, the first sun cycle, there wasn't no moon. We sun people. Right. Because the moon, when you go into Hinduism, they talk about how the dragon towed the moon into our solar system, because the moon is the external hard drive of the planet Earth. And it basically, keeps you stuck in polarity. And it's being used for reincarnation purposes. But, that's the deeper side of it. Right. But, that women are under the subjugation of the energy of the moon, which is patriarchy. The patriarchy is the embodiment of the moon. The woman, she has to get back into her right mindset if they want to revitalize, certain, young demographics of men.
So you got, like you said, you got males and men, and you got females and women.
Yeah. So a female is a individual who hasn't emotionally fortified herself enough to be a woman. So her emotions is not intact because it's not in alignment with logic. So that means that she don't have the intuitiveness to have emotional intelligence. You know what I'm saying? So now what happens is when your emotions is out of balance, that's going to be the precursor to toxicity. Now she's slashing your damn tires, busting your windows, misplaced aggression. You see what I'm saying? So when a woman is able to get her emotional energy in alignment with logic, that's when, you're going to see a big turnaround.
And that's what the man is for.
Yep.
Women usually thrive off of emotion.
Yep.
Men thrive off of logic.
Yep.
When we see you doing something emotionally crazy, that's when you step in as the man and you say, look, this is the better way to do things. But as a woman, you got to be receptive enough to take this advice.
See, they don't want to do that because they don't understand accountability. The reason they don't understand accountability, like when you call yourself trying to correct a woman, because a lot of women, they don't want, modern day women, they don't want that correction. They want to be stuck in a trauma because they're operating from a place of dark psychology. Dark psychology is when you have, is a form of psychological external stimuli. These are learned behavior patterns by way of the trauma that you learned in your childhood. So by way of self-realization, that's the only way that you can reverse the polarity of the trauma that subjugated you as a child and as you grow older as a woman. So the man, if I'm trying to correct the woman, like, hey, baby, that ain't the way to do it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you should do it this way. I know what I'm doing. See, you see what I'm saying? And then not only that, they propagating that in the media. They see it and they think it's cool. They they watch all these damn Tyler Perry movies. I don't like Tyler Perry. But I don't fuck with him. I don't like him. I don't like him. But if you want to make a conscious movie one day, yeah. But I don't mess with him because he shows you the afflictions of black culture, and then he monetizes off of it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't like the message that he sends.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. So yeah, it's like a silent war going on between, I ain't gonna say men and women, because men and women understand. I strongly feel like women need men and men need women. Facts. I don't understand what the whole disagreement is about, honestly. It's like yin and yang, like we need each other.
It's so real, even though I don't rock with monotheistic religion, they tell you in the book of Revelation that one 7 women is going to take on to 1 man. Because you don't have a lot of men out here. That's real.
That's true.
There's not a lot of real men out here nowadays.
You think it's more real women than real men? Or was at a certain
because
time?
women outnumber men. Yep. But in fact, like I said, when you get into the inception of creation, it was all women on the planet first. Because the woman, she has the mitochondrial Eve gene that's tether connected to the prokaryotic cell, which is the first organism in the universe.
Right.
So she's really the embodiment of the original human. That's why women are more intelligent than men. So I agree with you when it comes to, you said if there's more, what'd you say? What was it?
Are there more real women than real men?
So yeah, it is more real women than real men. If she's operating in her right mind.
Right. She can't be a female.
Yeah, she can't be a female.
Be a woman.
Yeah.
The same thing go for the men.
Facts.
You can't be a male. Just you a male by default, basically.
Right.
You born a male.
Yeah, you anatomically correct, but your mental faculties is of a woman. That's what makes you a male.
Right.
That's why you got niggas out here, they think like women.
Right.
They move like women. You know what I'm saying? That's why I stay to myself. I rock with you and, maybe 2 other people. But other than that, I kind of stay in my energetic bubble and I don't really mess with a lot of people like that because I know that they grew up with a woman, so they pulling on the energy of what they mama was propagating. Right?
Right.
Because they didn't have a father in the household. So I had a dad, when he would see me doing corny shit, he'd discipline me. I wouldn't say he would like give me, I didn't get a lot of whoopings, but he'd give me a lecture.
Right.
That's why I like giving lectures. So the apple don't fall too far from the tree. So he'd be like, okay, this is what happened. All right, explain that to me. How does that make sense? Like, what you doing? So that's so that's why every decision I make, I need to sit down, think about what the hell is going on, and then I make my decision to see if it's logical enough to where I'm not going to, reap the negative benefits from it on the back end.
I think that's important what you're saying right now because a lot of people say, a baby needs their daddy. Like you always hear that. They need their dad. They need their daddy. They need their biological father. But what if your biological father is not a man? What if he's not really needed around? What if he is only going to be the detriment to the child?
Well, that's when the woman, she should use her resources or whatever the energy, whatever she got to bring to the table to get an uncle, get somebody that, she feels like is a good man and to be that catalyst for that young boy that she's trying to grow up and raise.
Right.
That's where that come into play. Like, what about the uncles? This is where the village is supposed to step up and replace the man, not the government. So this is why they want government assistance, because we all know that they was using that to destabilize the black family.
Right.
Yep.
So, yeah, like that's something that I always, hear, and it's like, yeah, you could say that, but you gotta have somebody around, but it gotta be somebody that the woman respects.
Yes.
Because if she only sending you around for short periods of time, that's not really gonna do what it needs to do. Even me, like my father wasn't around as much as I wanted him to be. But one thing my mom always did do was put me in some type of program, put me around some type of male figure. That's why I never kind of wanted to associate myself. Like I never wanted to be street. I saw no purpose in that. Like I said, I love to hear you talk about what do these street niggas really think they are?
I do not. That's like I said, I'm glad you brought that up. I despise street niggas because like I said, there's other ways to, do what you do. There's other ways to get it. You just got to make sure your mind is in order for you to, reap the benefits of what you're trying to strive and, what your goals or whatever. But like I said, that street image is really the embodiment of European culture. Europeans in the inception of time, they was the first street niggas. They was the barbarians. They was out here straggling, scrambling and scraping.
They was the first gangsters.
Yeah. Al Capone, right? So now they mimicking the energy of Europeans, right? The ones, because like I said, from an imperialistic standpoint, they really are the embodiment. I started from the bottom and now I'm here, like that Drake song. right? They literally started from the bottom, but they got where they at is because of colonization, imperialism, stealing, raping, pillaging, right?
Right.
The street niggas is doing that right now. They doing the same thing, right? So, like I said, they're not operating in their true masculinity because they mimicking the energy of those who are subjugating them.
But you know how some people say gangs started from positive causes, like they was trying to protect the neighborhood and protect the kids from the police and racism. And so how did they get to the point where they changed it into street activity?
Where you had the Black Panthers, they got destabilized with CONTELPRO agencies, and that's when they started to break up in sections of the Crips and the Bloods. The Crips means Community Revolution in Progress. So I think they are the ones who created, like, you know, different programs and stuff for the children. But because of gangsterism in the rap industry, that's when they started to push that type of ideology to the public and to that demographic of people. So this is when they was pushing the money culture, drive-bys, all that stuff came from the music industry. Because during that time period, everybody was more conscious. They had conscious rappers. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Public Enemy. You shout out to Lord Jamar. He was a part of the Nubian clan, I think. It's a multitude of conscious artists that was out during that time period, because that music during that time period was so high vibrational. Translate to Easy and them and what's the group called?
NWA.
Yeah, NWA. Other groups or whatever, they was pushing that so hard because executives, they was like, we got all these prisons, but they ain't being filled up. Because if the prisons ain't being filled up, somebody ain't getting paid on Wall Street, right?
So crime is a business.
So it is a business. So hypothetically speaking, let's just say it wasn't no crime here in Evansville for like 6 months. They're going to create a law, or they're going to create something just to get people in jail. That's how that works.
Oh man, see, go ahead, bro. I don't want to interrupt you, bro.
Yeah, no, but that's how it works though. It's they got to create this illusionary aspect of the have and the have-nots. They got to have a certain demographic of people being the common denominator, while you have a certain faction of people at the top. Because that's the only way you can harvest energy when you got polarity. You need good, you need evil. They don't want everything to just be good. Because it used to be like that when you had a fifth dimensional civilization during the times of Atlantis, Tartaria, right? During the times of, beginning points in the beginning dynasties of ancient Kemet. When everything was in abundance, you didn't have to steal from nobody. You was out to go outside, pick fruit from a tree and eat it. Now your ass got to go to Walmart because somebody got to get paid on Wall Street. Capitalism.
Wow, bro. The more I hear you talk, the more dots you just connecting.
Yeah.
From beginning to end. Everything you saying, because I'm a barber, bro. I see so many people, I deal with so many different people, and I see them make the same mistakes over and over again. They see this person get jammed up. They think they can do it differently, and they really all falling victim to the same system. And that's what you are explaining today in so many words. All of the traps that are set for people, not just black people, anybody that's crazy enough to ignore the signs. And like I said, that takes me back to just the culture and the celebrities and how they use them to propagate this culture, to make people feel like this is what they should be doing and this is what life is about. So how do you feel about that? Like how they use these celebrities and like how people just fall victim and are being tricked by the image and, how they do that.
Well, the perception of art imitates reality. So if you see it enough, it's going to embark upon your reality. So the more that you see degradation, it's going to embark upon everybody's lives who's watching it. So this is just my opinion. Just like you need to have a screening for when you need to do this test before you get the job or whatever. I think it should be like that when it comes to certain music or movies that you watch. If you're not able to pass that test, that aptitude test, you don't need to be watching this and listening to this because you cannot distinguish what's real and what's fake. That's what it is. When it comes to street niggas, they want to emulate that because they think it's real. They want to emulate everything, women doing the whole culture. That's real to them. So there's no other way for them to, to think outside the box.
Wow. So it's almost like you got to have it's like, I don't know, man. That's deep, bro.
Yeah,
like,
they call
really
it, everybody is submerged into
you would think because you got so much sense. Like, you look at this, you like, I know this is fake. But somebody out here is watching Power.
Yep.
Snowfall.
Yep.
And they think that that's what real life is. They think that that's what they are supposed to be doing.
Facts.
Ignoring everything around them. Mm-hmm. And it's just crazy how they use stuff like that.
They just came out with a publication today talking about how there's a shortage in black scientists. See, black people are the only people on the planet that box themselves of aspirations that few ever attain. So when you start to do that, everybody want to be a rapper. Everybody want to be a ball player. What about, you don't want to be a scientist, bruh? You don't want to be an author. You don't put no books out. You don't want to be a truth teller. You got other ways to get it, but you want to be a ball player, or you want to be a rapper, or when it comes to hoe culture, you want to be a hoe.
Do you think poverty is a excuse for crime and that type of behavior?
It can be. Economic disenfranchisement plays a big part in crime. Just like in Chicago. In Chicago, there's not a lot of temp agencies to where you can get a job or whatever. You move to Evansville the same day you move to Evansville, you can get a damn job.
Right.
That's just that quick. But because of their economic system, and then you got the prison, the school to prison pipeline there, they have one of the poorest education systems in the United States of America. Chicago does. And they don't have a lot of lucrative job opportunities. So what you think is going to happen? They got to pay their bills at the end of the day. So now I'm coming through the door, unlocking it. I'm busting through the door, you know what I'm saying? Spinning off on the ops because I heard he got a bag. So that's, economic disenfranchisement is what plays a part of it. Even when you go to Mississippi, there's about 34, 32 counties in Mississippi. In every county, there's a prison. That's how they make their money.
Wow.
Mississippi, that's how they make the great majority of their money is through the prison system. So they got to keep certain things in place as far as like economic disenfranchisement, because you got to have the have and the have nots, because if you got a certain demographic of people at the bottom of the economic chain, that's when you could pull on their energy and put them in a cell. Like,
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
You are not lying about that. Like, there are a lot of jails and prisons.
Yeah, and you from Mississippi, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there are.
There's a lot of prisons.
They got
a lot of private prisons.
Yeah, they got somewhere to put your ass for sure.
Yeah.
If you go down there playing. It's just like on Life. They went down there playing and they put their ass right there. I think that's Parchman that they imitating on that movie. I think that's actually Parchman.
Okay.
But yeah, man, we done got into a lot of different things, and at this time, I would like to ask you, from your knowledge and understanding and everything that you read on, I mean, you can only ask certain people these questions like I'm about to ask you, because a lot of people have not done enough research to even have any idea what direction to go in.
Mm-hmm.
So based on everything that you study and what you see, are there any solutions to what's going on?
Yes, there's a solution. The solution is indigenous people as a whole have to divorce themselves of everything that was facilitated by westernized culture. Get away from the religion. Stop watching their movies. Stop doing anything that's connected to their system and create your own system. That's the only way to do it. Mm-hmm. We have to be more self-sufficient in order to reverse the polarity of everything that they created, you know what I'm saying, as far as like destruction and hedonistic activities or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's the only way you can combat that energy. That's the only way to do it. We got to be more creators and start being consumers and start using the money. Just like I said, you came down here and got a barbershop that quick. Mm-hmm. There's so many people I know that was cutting hair in their house, and I'm like, bro, why don't you just get a barbershop? And you got the best looking barbershop in the city, right? So it's not that hard. It's just one of those things where you got to get your mind in alignment, because a lot of people don't have the ability to do that because they're energetically out of balance. Because when you're energetically out of balance, that creates blockages in the body. So when you got a blockage in the body, that's going to create mechanisms like, oh, I'm jealous of him, or I'm jealous of her, or I hate him. So that's going to create a manifestation blocker. The more that you got bad shit going on in your life, it weakens your magnetic field for blessings. The more you hate, the more jealous you are, the more you ain't going to get them blessings, the more you're not going to reap the benefits of the law of attraction. Because when you change your mind, you change your vibration. That vibration becomes magnetism. So that's why a lot of people be like, well, he did this, bro, because I'm not a hater. When you don't hate, that's the love frequency. Everything's just going to come to you. Everything going to operate tenfold. You know, I mean, you got to be proactive and you got to do the work at the same time, but you can't be a hater because it's a manifestation blocker. Anytime that you a hater, I don't care what it is, you got to be operating from the heart space, bro, in order to, you know, get what you need on and get what you want and need on this planet.
Hey, that's what a lot of people need to need to know that.
And Evansville everybody in Evansville is nothing but haters here. That's why none of them, they don't make it in the music industry. These niggas don't make it to the NBA and nothing like that because they have that hate energy on them. It literally blocks you of your blessings. It puts a blockage in the body. It keeps you connected to the root chakra. That's the part of the demiurge because it placates to your emotions. All these niggas down here, they rapping the same. Everybody down here do the same thing. And they wonder why it don't work. Because they hating. You got to get that hate up out of your heart if you want to, you know, get to the next level, bro. That's what it takes. It's literally that simple. Just stop hating.
Yeah.
Stop hating people because they doing something different. Stop hating people because they talking different. Stop hating people because they don't believe in the religion that you believe in. Right?
I want to talk to you about something else too. Something that I always talk shit to you about.
Okay.
So you're doing your social media thing. So let's get into that a little bit. How exactly did you grow your channel the way you did?
Okay. Well, I did a video and I was demonstrating how Black women were the first people on the planet and things of that nature, and how the Black woman is basically the epitome of God in physical form. And I got into that I post that video on Facebook. It did like 300,000 views.
Whoa.
Then there was a pastor comment at the bottom. I don't know where he was from. He's supposed to be like some type of, you know, big pastor out of Texas or whatever. We debating in the comments. So I said, you know, well, let's have a civil debate about my ideology and yours, because I know it's going to dismantle the religion. So we did a video on that. We did a live debate on Facebook that did almost 300,000 views also.
Really?
They removed that video off Facebook.
Who removed it?
Facebook did because they said it was bullying.
Wow, you done bullied them?
but it was a civil debate. I wasn't cussing. I was being very respectful, but he didn't have his scholarship in alignment with the historical context and the religion. Mm-hmm. I was able to do that, and it just made him look, you know, kind of look fugazi from, you know, outside demographics of people. Right. So I did that video, and then I did another video that went crazy viral, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a YouTube channel. And you know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point? I need to make a YouTube channel. So then after that, then Brother Rich, he started seeing me. Then I got put on there. And then, you know, now I'm working with Billy Carson. I'm working with Red and Blue Pill, KT the Arch Degree. I'm doing all types of stuff now. That's what it led to, bro. Because at the end of the day, you can ask my dad. I used to tell my dad all the time. I was like, I cannot wait for the world. I used to say that all the time when I was a little kid.
For real, bro?
Yeah.
You was sick of it back then.
Yeah, because I knew, because something wasn't right, bro. Like, you could just feel it, like something on this planet is not right. How is the good bad and the bad is good? Everything's inverted. Like, I was like, bro, that don't even make sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, certain shit on the planet it don't even add up.
Yeah.
The math ain't mathing.
Life is crazy.
So that's when but within the aspects of that, I created the YouTube channel, and then I started, giving my truth, because I'm not a big fan of watching other people's content, because I don't want, create any type of outside influence on what I'm demonstrating. Because I get my own downloads. You know what I'm saying? I do independent research. You can ask my girl. I'm like, I'm in them books, bro. Like for real.
Oh, I
Like,
know.
yeah, she know. Like, so that's another thing though. People got to be very critical of these teachers or conscious people who don't have a counterpart. Because if you can lead your woman, you can lead a demographic of people also. And she actually pushes me to be even more than what I'm supposed to be. You know what I'm saying?
That's beautiful, bro.
So that's why I'll be like, damn. She was like, I gotta get to it because I can't be out here. I want her to be like, look up to me as a man.
Your woman should be your inspiration.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
She's your inspiration.
Mm-hmm. Same shit. Like when you used to hoop, playing basketball, and then it just ain't nothing but dudes in the gym. But when a girl come in, you trying to do the best thing.
Go crazy.
That's the same thing that takes place when it comes to my woman. When it comes to this knowledge, it's pushing me even further. Well, I get that same energy when I'm dealing with my child too, because my child, I'm trying to get to a point where I tackle all my goals to where I want him to be homeschooled. I can't do it like right now, but I want to get to a level where he ain't got to worry about that.
Man, if your son is homeschooled by you, he ain't got nothing to worry about, brother.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? He got autism and stuff with it. So he got he got mild autism on a lower form. So, but over the course of time, that's what I want. I want him to get informed about real information, because you get the indoctrination program of the school curriculum. What they do, they're gonna use all types of misinformation because they want to exploitate your child. You know what I'm saying? No, you ain't gotta ask your teacher. Daddy know what the fuck going on. You ask me, don't ask them.
I'm glad you said that. That is another topic that I think a lot of people just feel a certain way about, but they don't know how to express it necessarily. So why is the school system set up the same way that the jails are set up essentially?
Yeah, the school to prison pipeline. They want you to be a worker. They don't want you to be independent. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're not independent, that means that they don't have jurisdiction over you. Same thing that translates to the music industry. Why do you think that the industry wanted Nipsey so bad? Right? Because he was independent. Because when you don't sign them contracts, it doesn't put you under the act of parliament. For those who make music and you trying to be in the music industry or whatever, when you get those contracts, cross out the word actor and cross out the word artist and cross it out and put creator.
Y'all hear that? Make sure y'all listening.
Yeah.
That's real.
When you do that, that's you get full autonomy to where you're not subjugated by a 360 deal. Well, that was kind of off topic, but I had to.
You did some justice.
Yeah. So I had to say that. But the same thing when it comes to the school system, they want you to be workers. They don't want you to be self-sufficient. They don't want you to have a system of autonomy. They want you to work for them. If it's not in the school, they're gonna make sure you working for their ass in the prison system.
Wow.
Because the school system is a factory for NPCs. They trying to create people. NPC is a non-playable character, meaning that they don't have a mind of their own and they only go along with the system to, get a job or, make some money or whatever. So they got to follow certain guidelines within the infrastructure of that curriculum in order for them to have something on this planet. They don't want you to be a creator. They want you to be ruled over. But it tells you in Psalms 82 verse 6 that ye are gods, right? Ye are gods. God with a lowercase g, meaning that you're a creator. You can create. That's what makes you a god. See, people in religion, they don't understand the diametrical difference between God in all caps, God with capital G, lowercase letters, and God in little caps. They don't, these are all three different titles, but they don't know that though. So for those stuck in religion, ask your pastor, what's the difference between God in all caps, God with a capital G, lowercase letters, and God in all lowercase letters? I bet you he won't be able to tell you.
He's going to say it all mean the same.
Yeah, it's the same month. Yeah, okay, Pastor Pork Chop.
So when you talk about religion and stuff like that, and, I follow you on all your platforms, and I see what you say, and I see that some people got such a problem with what you say. They got a problem with what you do, just like when we just did the event with
I'm glad
with
you brought that up.
How do you feel when you see all of these people that you just trying to give knowledge to, and it's their choice to listen to it, it's their choice to follow you? How do you feel when you see that they got so many things to say about what you doing?
Well, a lot of people, they think like, because I understand their aggravation, because you had a lot of conscious people in the community. You had the downfall of young Pharaoh. Unfortunately, you had other people, and they started mingling with outside forces, and then they got caught up, and they lost their light. But that doesn't translate to me, because one thing you got to understand about me is that a lot of people who get submerged into that, they literally came from nothing. So they're going to always do something. It's going to give them the propensity to chase the money and not chase the knowledge. I'm not chasing the money. I'm chasing the knowledge. I don't care about the money. That's why everything on my channel is for free. I don't sell shirts and none of that stuff. It's just free information. I'm just giving information.
Right.
So it's hard for me to be weaponized, and it's hard for me to have somebody weaponize me and for me to be an agent. So just because you see me taking pictures with a celebrity or Charleston White, whoever, I'm not, that doesn't mean that I'm an agent. I have a mind of my own. I control myself. Ain't nobody finna control me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I believe that.
Unless they want hands put on them. Like I said, but you got to have that balance though.
Right.
Like I said, just as much as I am light, I got that darkness too.
Yeah.
You a Libra too, so you already know what it is.
I know exactly what you mean.
So like we could take it there. Ain't nobody finna do nothing to me to make me operate outside of my purpose. I stay in alignment with that, and I mean that for real. Because you can easily get somebody like that, like I said, when they ain't come from that, they come from a broken home, a broken family. I come from a balanced household. So for somebody to dangle some money in front of my face and be like, hey, push this Donald Trump ideology, push him. I'm not gonna fall victim to that, because I know what it is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't come from nothing. I come from a good home.
Stay genuine, stay true.
Facts.
So with that being said, BDELL, where do you see yourself 3 to 5 years from now? With your content, with your career, with everything that you're doing, where do you see yourself? What's the goal?
The goal is to bring about the golden age with true information and true knowledge. Right now, currently right now, I literally left after I dropped my son off. I'm working on a book. I've been doing that all day. I made a video today about neuromelanin and artificial intelligence, working on a book called The Sacred Book of the Chosen. And my job is to blur the lines. That's why we had to work with, Charleston White. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's good for the people, because you need my type of information mixed in with the street knowledge. So when you bring both of them together, that's when you get a multitude of demographics of people that's coming from the streets or coming from broken homes, tying them all the way back to the real information. So sometimes you got to do that. So, it might have to come down to me working with a celebrity just to get my information out and what I'm bringing to the table. But does that mean that I'm an agent? Does that mean that I'm being controlled? Does that mean that I'm in the Illuminati now? You know what I'm saying? Like, because people are just so ignorant when it comes to stuff like that, bro.
Right.
And I see why a lot of people that was, when they make it real high in the conscious community or whatever, they divorce themselves from black people as a whole. Like, I get it, but that's not something I would do though.
Right.
Yeah.
So how was that experience with Charleston? Like, if you could, elaborate on it a little bit.
It was great, man. He's genuine. He's down to earth. He knows more than what he displays on media.
I definitely believe.
I showed him his picture, and then I showed him a picture that Rod Hayes had sent me. It showed it's a secret society called the Brotherhood of Negroes. It's a coalition of blacks who started the KKK. And I showed him the picture, and I said, "What you think about this?" And he looked at me and said, "I just got through talking to Kanye." But that wasn't Kanye, the picture he was looking at.
Right.
It was showing you had like some context to it or whatever, but Charleston know what's going on.
Yeah.
He know what's going on.
He used his brain.
Yeah, he know what's going on.
I respect that more than anything. Like you said, like I'm like anybody else. Of course, I don't agree with 100% of what he say. I don't agree with 100% of what nobody say. But you gotta respect and admire the way that man uses his brain.
Yeah.
You cannot deny that.
Facts.
The fact that he got everybody talking about him, and he ain't really done nothing to nobody. Honestly. other than the one crime that he said that he did when he was a kid.
Right.
And that's it.
Mixing the medicine with the candy. That's all you got to do, bro. Like because everybody don't like positivity. But like I said, everybody's so caught up into their emotions. I didn't like how he said that. It don't matter. He's still telling the truth. So what does it matter how he said it?
Man,
the shit like that don't even matter to me. Yeah. I don't care about the delivery or whatever. I just care about, is this on point? Is this factual information? Does this make logical and rational sense to me?
Man, I see people say that they don't like him because he said something about somebody's kid, and I done watched them same people talk about people's babies.
See what I'm saying?
Like,
you know what I'm saying?
All of that.
Contradiction, bro.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Man, BDELL, gotta be honest with you, man. This has been such a great and informative interview.
I appreciate that.
I cannot thank you enough. I know we've been talking about doing this for a long time, and I'm just so glad that we can finally make the time, put it together to do this, get this information out, let people know who you are, let them get a little more personal with you. Because I feel like a lot of times when people watch your content, they getting the information, but it's always better to be able to relate to the person that they getting the information from.
Facts.
I feel like it's very important that you highlight yourself every now and then. Even though, like you said, I know you don't like to let too many people in. Like you said, you only got a select few that you deal with. But for the sake of the information and for the sake of what you're doing, I think that it's a good thing for people to be able to look into you just a little bit, brother. Just a little bit, not too much, of course. So we're gonna end it on that note. Again, this is Street Therapy Podcast. Anybody who feels like they have anything to say that can help the current situation of what's going on in our communities, in the world, always know that you got brothers like me, BDELL, and Brother Wiley, who helped start this podcast.
Yeah, salute to Big Wiley, man.
Yeah, salute to Wiley. Without him, none of this would be possible. We love you, brother, and we salute everything that you're doing. And like I was saying before, if you want to come here, tell your story, give out a piece of information, please let us know. And always remember, if you are not part of the solution, you part of the problem.
Facts.
Don't be part of the problem.
Street Therapy Podcast, BDELL 1014.
We'll see y'all later.